Who are you lighting for today? Are you lighting for the inside guys or for the outside guys? That was the question. Now at Yisrael, you're lighting for the outside guys. It's pretty clear. Not that everyone agrees with that, but that's the basic minhag. In Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, we don't consider it a makam sakana. And there was already a spashad on minhag, everybody lights outside. And where you light outside is probably much more complicated than where you light inside. But we're not going to go into that because we're not living over there. But there's a question, do you light by the door of the house? Do you light by the door of the chutzner? Do you light by the door of the apartment building? The apartment? Do you light by the window because the apartment door doesn't face the outside? There are some people who end up lighting 2 or 3 menorahs because they can't figure out where to put their menorah. But that's a Eretz Yisrael situation. And we'll leave that for now. But for the question of the chutzner, the question is, where do you light? Do you light in the inside or do you light in the outside? Who are we lighting for? We light inside. Why do we light inside? Because at some point, Gemara says, Mipnei sakana, because of the sakana to light outside, could be in the times of the Gemara there were people, they called them chaverim or something, they worshipped the light or the dark, and they would get very annoyed if they lit the fire, lit the candles. Even though today we don't really have a sakana necessarily, but Aganovim, the Ritva says, once the minhag became not to light outside, because we're not fully out of the Gola situation, and there's still anti-Semitism, and there's still sometimes vandalism. We don't want to be provocative, especially in certain places. Even in certain places it may not be such an issue. In certain places it could be an issue. Maybe in France there could be places where there could be issues. So we kept it simple, and we liked inside. You know, that's the basic reason. Once it was miskabel that minhag, until we're fully back, you know, outside. That was back up on the next. Oh, then they light outside, but here we light inside. But even in the takana of lighting inside, there seemed to be different levels. There were some times where they would actually shut the shutters, you know, and what they want to see. You know, imagine I lived in before it was open. The Iron Curtain came down. You know, in Russia, if you lit inside, you made sure the shutters were shut. You know, so there were certain times they light inside al shulchana, and that's where they lit. So then there was no question. The lighting was for the inside people itself. There was no outside people that were going to see it. Then things loosened a little bit. So the Darch Moshe says, well, you might as well light on the window, because this way the outside people could see it too. So now comes the questions, okay, are you lighting for the inside and they're seeing it too? Or you're lighting really for the outside, you just don't want to put it outside, so you put it by the window. So how does this break down in halacha? So the basic question is, what's the time to light the menorah? This is a very basic issue. What time do you light the menorah? When could you light it? When's the best time to light it? And when could you still light it with a bracha? So, Mechaber, who's talking about Me'ikad Dedina when they're lighting outside, he writes, you don't light the Chanukah before Shkia Sachama. We'll see what that is. From Seif Shkia, so the end of Shkia light it. He says a very strong lashon, which is based on the Rambam, Loy Ma'achrim, you can't put it and do it later than that. And Loy Ma'atiman, and you can't do it earlier than that. So Mechaber says you got to light Shkia time, whatever that time is, we'll discuss. Not earlier, not later. Then he brings a Yesh Mishayim, that if you're busy, you can't make it that time, you should light it earlier, Miplaga Minchul L'maylo. You should light it earlier, later. You should light it earlier, he says, which is what we do Friday. We can't light it by Shkia time, or after Shkia by Tzeis, because it's Shabbos. So you light it earlier, after Plaga Mincha, you can light it if you're really stuck. You have to catch a plane or something, you don't have to run out. You got to light it, you can't light it at the time. You can light it after Plag HaMincha. That's the halacha. But he doesn't talk about lighting it later. Halacha Bezi says, Shochach, if you forgot, or he hears it, or he's amazed, he didn't light it at the right time, then Madlik v'hoylach at shetichla regel min hashok. Then you can light as long as still people outside. How long is that? Shu k'moy chatzi shah, that's a half hour. Sha'oz, then the people are still walking and coming, v'ika pasim anisa. Hilkach, therefore, sarachlitin b'shem kashir, you have to put enough oil to last a half hour. If you put extra, you can put it out after that time. That's the Machaber. So this is the Ikadina of the Gemara, what the Machaber is being here. And the Ikadina of the Gemara is, there's two Lashonis in the Gemara actually, but the Ikadina of the Gemara is you have to light in the right time. The right time is Shkia or Tzeis, we'll see in a minute. Tzeis Kachavim shall light. Then it shall last until Tichel Regel Merashuk, for a half hour it shall last. Tzeis Kachavim for a half hour it shall last the candle. That's when we get the half hour candles. And then, if you miss the time and you're late, as long as you're within that half hour, you can still light. Okay, that's what the Machaber says. Now, this is based on the Rambam. But the Rambam takes a very strong opinion that if you miss this time, you can't make a bracha. If you miss this time, if you missed a half hour after the Zman HaBlaka, you blew it. You can light, but you can't make a bracha. Because you might be after the time. It's not the Zman. It's like, lighting the next day in Chanuka. You're lighting the wrong time. That is the time to light. And if you don't light then, you missed it. The Rashba, in the Tshuva, says, no, this Zman is only a L'chatchila Zman. But b'diavad, there's no question you can light after then also. That's what the Rashba says in the Tshuva. And the Machaber at the end says like this: if you missed this time and you didn't light, you should light the whole light. And if you missed the whole light, you blew it. So the Machaber does say that if this is all what he said is only when you're supposed to light, but if you didn't light at that time, you can still make it up and light it later the whole night. Now, the question is, could you make a bracha during that time? Because it's a suffix. So we'll see. We'll see. If you live in Eretz Yisrael, it's a real issue, and that's the shaila. Could you, if you missed that time, this half-hour slot, could I make a bracha if I light later? Because it's a machlokes Scheiner. The Rambam says you blew it, and the Rashba says no, you can still light later. It's just the best time to light during that half-hour slot. But if you don't, you can light it later. So someone living in Eretz Yisrael has this real serious issue. There's a story that Shmuel Salant, the Rav of Yerushalayim, so he was an elderly person. I mean, he lived till, well, not quite old. But it was once Motzei Shabbos, during the week, it's not such an issue. You light on time. But Motzei Shabbos, you can only light after you get home from shul. So Tzeis Kachavim, you daven Ma'ariv, and then you go home. So you have a few minutes to get within that half-hour slot. And there were people davening longer Shemoneh Esreis, and he wouldn't walk past them. So he climbed out the window to get home on time to light in their Hanukkah. So you got to make it on time, and that's why Shlomo Zalman writes that and it's true that even people that are makbid to daven 72 or longer to wait till Rabbi Tam's man, they shouldn't wait on Motzei Shabbos Hanukkah, because you got to make light in there in the right time, and you're going to miss it. So daven a little earlier to make sure you get home on time, because it was a real serious issue.
When the original wording about it being when people are still out in the marketplace, and then when it's at a half hour.
Right. So this is a good question. So in other words, many places can write, this is true, that even though it says a half hour, because that's Bisman HaGemara, that was the time when people were out, they didn't have lights in those days. So once it got dark, people weren't roaming around the streets. So after it says a half hour, people were still getting home, and then it was more or less quiet. But today, lampposts, there's light, there's leviting until who knows when. Yeah, there's no end. I was driving to New York at 1:30 in the morning. I had standstill traffic. So it can happen here also sometimes on the QEW, but 401. But anyways, it's there's people out. So a lot of places can say this share of a half hour is really extended until Tichlu Regel Menashuk, until people are not in the street, which is very unclear when that time is, depending on the place, what kind of street.
The mall's closed.
The mall's closed, yeah. Some people say until the mall's closed. And during the Chaga season, it could close at 11. So that's a good question. So that would be a heter even in Eretz Yisrael. Even in Eretz Yisrael, where if you missed that half hour, but if there's still people out, of how do you collide with a bracha? But still, the place can say, l'chatchila, you should try to make it within that half hour. We have this leniency of tichla regel munashuk, like you're saying. So even in Eretz Yisrael, you would light with a bracha as long as there's still plenty of people hanging around the street. The stores are open. There's still such a concept. But that's all in Eretz Yisrael. In Chutz La'aretz, so the Ramah says, speaks out here, Hagoyeh Shoymim, Shebizman Hazeh Shemavlikim B'fnim, that today when we light inside, Ein Tzarech Lizor, we don't have to be careful. Lahad L'koydim Shetichla Regel Merashuk. You don't have to be careful to light before people go home. There's no need. But then he says, it's still good to be careful even today. So the Ramah seems to take the side that there's really not even necessary. Good morning. It's not even necessary to be so makbid on this. Today we light inside. So as long as you're inside, supper time is geschmack time to light. Why wait? Why do it shkia? You don't get home to work. Most people don't get home to work till later. 6 o'clock. This man would be, let's say, we'll see what this man is, somewhere between 4:40 and chase. 40 minutes later, 45 minutes later. Sometimes there would be this man to light. People don't get home from work till later. So according to the Ramah, not a big concern, because we're lighting today for the inside. We're lighting for the inside. Kol Makam, it's good to be careful even today. It's good to be careful. That's a nice hitter, but it's still very possible to light later. A person can light later. It's not such a big deal. That's what the Ramah says. Now, the Mishabura, in the beginning here, even though by the Ramah he doesn't really say much, but in the Mishabura beginning, when he's talking about the Zman Hadlaka, he seems to be very strong that we should be careful to light in the right time. So you have this question. There are those that will say today it's not such a concern. The Ikar Hadlaka is for the inside, so you can light later. We want to also chaparain, so to say. We want to chaparain the outside too, so we light by the window. We want to gain the outside, so we light by the window. So we want to gain the outside. You want to light when people are still walking around outside. But if that's the main hadlakas for inside, it's less of a concern. But if we say today also, since we're allowed to light it outside, you can light by the window, so maybe part of the main hadlakas for the outside, so that would be a much stronger push to say, not so fast, it's best to light within the shir, that there are people outside. And in halacha there seems to be this tension, are we lighting for the inside or are we lighting for the outside? We'll see. So, how does this come to halacha l'maisa? So the Mishabura takes a little bit of a strong opinion here. And he seems to learn that the person should try to get within the half hour of the Zman Hadlaka to light. That's when the person should really light. If you can't, you can't, but that's when the person should really light. And if he doesn't get that, he should at least get when people are still outside. And if he can't get that, then you could light inside, but you should try to have people around the house. But if there's no people around the house, then there's a question whether you can make a bracha. Because then there's no people are sleeping in the house, you come home real late. As people are sleeping, there's a question whether you can make a bracha. You should either wake someone up or don't make a bracha. That's what he says. If everybody's sleeping, you come home, everybody's sleeping. You shouldn't light for yourself. There's nobody outside, there's nobody inside.
Who's saying this, sir?
The Mishabura. He doesn't say you should wake them up. He says don't make a bracha. Because it's not the zman of person manes. So he says a pshat like this. Even though the Ramah seems to hold the main hadlakas for the inside, which is for yourself, but still, since it's not the zman of person manes, because most people, everybody's sleeping at 2 in the morning, let's say. Get home late, 2 in the morning, everybody's sleeping, there's nobody outside. You're going to light. It's not the time when people are outside, so that was the takana wasn't to light during that time. So therefore, if there's nobody else that could see it, you shouldn't make a bracha. If there's somebody else up, then you couldn't make a bracha. That's what he writes. So this concept is here also, I think, is playing a part here also. Even though today the Rama seems to hold you light for the inside, but they set it up as if you're lighting for the outside. So the time frame, l'chatchila, is still during that half hour, at least l'chatchila. If you can't get that half hour, as long as people are still up outside, most people are makel on that. Especially if a person is working, doesn't get home on time, so makel as long as people are still outside. But once you try to light before the time when people are already off the streets, that's not a l'chatchila dikka time. But yeah, but you can light then also as long as people are up in the house. That's what seems to come out. So just to go through a few things that come up, then we'll take it further. So we talked about Shabbos, when the time to light is, when the proper time l'chatchila to light is. So most shuls, what they do is they daven mincha ma'ariv in shul. Then you go home after ma'ariv and you light. So usually it's not such an issue because most shuls daven ma'ariv earlier. They don't wait till the zman ma'ariv. They daven after mincha. They wait 10 minutes, but they don't really wait till the zman of ma'ariv. So you can get home by tseis. Tseis would be, let's say shkia is about 4:42 or something. I don't know exact time around. Let's say 4:42. 4:41 is shkia. So let's say shkia is 4:41. So then tseis would be, let's say, 40 minutes later. I don't know exactly when tseis is, but let's say it's 40 minutes later. So tseis would be 5:21. That would be tseis. 5:21. So mincha ma'ariv you finish by, I don't know what time is mincha ma'ariv finish nowadays. The shul, how long does it take? How long do they wait? Like 10 minutes after shkia they wait. So you're home by 5:10, so you can light right away, and you can get the zman, the ikka zman, you can get the zman of tzeis hakachavim. So that's one way to do it. Obviously it's best if your menorah is set up earlier, so then set up earlier since you could just go home and light. But then you get this amount of tzeis hakachavim, and your candle has to be stayed lit for a half hour till after tzeis hakachavim. A half hour after tzeis hakachavim. There are other
ideal is to light if you can just before tzeis, just before.
So according to one sheet, the way the Mishabul is in Mechaber is seif shkia means tzeis. So you light by tzeis hakachavim is the time to light.
But that means just before. Not, you don't wait for tzeis and then light. You do it the other way.
On tzeis, by tzeis. 5:21 you light. Tzeis hakachavim you light, and it goes for a half hour. That's the best time according to the Mechaber, the way Mishabur learns. Other Rishonim learn you should light 13 and a half minutes before tzeis. That's Shabbos. That's the beginning of the second shkia. 13 and a half minutes before tzeis. So that would be around 5:10, let's say. Could be less than 13 and a half minutes over here, but let's say it's around 5. It's about 5:10. Okay, so 5:08. Person can light according to other shittas, and according to the Rambam, you actually light by shkia, which is 4:41.
4:40.
Yeah, most people don't light by shkia because it's still light outside. It's still light, especially in Chutzlaritz, and I saw the shkia goes very quick. But here it takes time, so it's still quite light outside by shkia time. So most people wait till after shkia. So what ends up coming out is like this: in most of the world lights after davening ma'ariv, which is by tzeisish, a few minutes after tzeis they light. In the yeshiva world, they usually light before. They usually daven ma'ariv later and light about 20 minutes after shkia. Moshe has his man, Rabbi Aaron has his man. They all have different zmanim, but it all involves. What they're trying to do is light within the half hour of the Rambam also. So the Rambam says he's supposed to light shkia, so you get a half hour leeway from there. So they're trying to light within that first half hour of the Rambam, and to try to get the 13 and a half minutes before. So they light around 20 minutes after shkia. That's when most of the yeshivas light. But most people that aren't doing it that way usually go to mincha ma'ariv right afterwards, and they get the zman of the Mechaber. Now people that obviously can't do that, they come home later, so they'll have to rely on the other opinions. If you can get a half hour from tzeis, that's the best. If you can't, then as long as people are still up, that's the time to light. Okay, so that's the halacha the way it stands. Now I just want to point out two things. That you're supposed to have enough oil to last for a half hour. But depending when the half hour starts, that's how much oil you're supposed to have. So if your whole half hour starts from Tzeis, and you light before Tzeis, in other words, you want to get all the shittas and light earlier is nice, but you want to leave enough oil that'll last for a half hour after Tzeis. So the half hour candles are not l'chatchila, because first of all, a lot of times they don't last a half hour, and second of all, sometimes you need it to last more than a half hour. If you light a little earlier, it has to go for a half hour after Tzeis it shall last. So it shall last until, if Tzeis is 5:20, it shall last until 10 to 6. At least. It shall last that long. Friday, there's no question. Friday you have to light even earlier by plug. You have to have a candle or oil that will last until a half hour after Tzeis HaKacham. That's how it should be. So that's the, and if it doesn't last that long on Friday, obviously you can't light it again, but during the week a person should relight it, because it's not, you won't put in enough oil possibly. It shouldn't make a bracha, but it should last that long. So that's the share, and that's the zman of the hadlaka. Now, it happens that sometimes a person is traveling. The guy told me he's going to Rochester, Minnesota. He said, if there's any Yidden around, he said he thinks there's a Chabad house there. But he has to go for medical reasons, he has to go there. Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota, there's no Yidden there. So the question comes, do you light? Who's the person Manisa for? There's a problem, another problem. Where you light? I'll tell you can't light. It's complicated where you can light. You can't light in the hotel, you can't light in the park bench where you light. That's another issue to be discussed. But the Iker Hadlaka was saying is who you're lighting for. For the outside, for the inside, just for yourself. So there is an interesting mechaber which seems to be cited everything we said until now. The mechaber says, Yeshoimim. So now, after background here, there is a concept of Ishtem Adlekas Allah B'Seich Beisai. Right? So he's going himself to Rochester, Minnesota, but his wife is still home. So his wife can light in the house, and he's Yotze. Person is Yotze, someone's lighting for him in the house. It's his house. It's where his main living is. If someone's lighting for him in the house, and they're living there, they're Labayas. So you have one person lighting in the house, you're Yotze.
A woman can be Yotze man.
For sure, because she's also part of the Chiyuv. It's a Chiyuv for the whole household. She has a Chiyuv just like a man. So one person lights in the house, everybody Yotze. So if a person's traveling, he's really Yotze the mitzvah. There's a whole shaila if he's allowed to light himself. Is he allowed to light himself where he goes? Because he's Yotze with his wife at home. So let's say he's staying by someone's house for the night, and his wife is lighting at home. So this gets into the concept of what we call an achsanoi, a guest. Now an achsanoi, Medina the Gemara, wouldn't light himself. What he would do is he would be mishtatef bepriti. He would join in to the person he's staying by. It's similar to Ner Shabbos, that you go stay by someone's house, so you don't have to light yourself. You're mishtatef bepriti. You can mishtatef from their havlaka, for the Shabbos. So the question is he allowed to break off and light himself? So whole machlokes rishonim, is he even allowed to? Because that's not where he's living. He's living at home. That's where he's supposed to light, and he's staying by someone else. So could he break off from his wife at home, and could he break off from the people that he's staying by and light his own hair? Machlokes rishonim. Mishabu paskins he could. Machlokes taz.
That's if they're sleeping over there. What if you're at somebody's house for dinner? And
we'll get there. But the ikar din achsana is staying there. You're sleeping there. Someone's lighting for you at home. You could mishtatef where you're staying over there. But the question is, can you light yourself? Possibly you can light yourself. You don't really have to light yourself, because you're hearing the problem is that it's very nice your wife is lighting for you at home, but the Bach says that there's two chiyuvim. Hanukkah is an interesting situation over here. Usually a mitzvah, I do a mitzvah. But here, the brachas are sort of part of the mitzvah. You make a bracha shasanisam laviseinu, first night you make a shachiyanu, and if your wife is lighting it for you at home, and you're not home, you're somewhere else, you're not hearing the brachas. So very nice if she lit for you and you're yoitza, but I don't have the benefit. I don't have the brachas, and that's part of the adlaka. So what we call it, the Bach says, Beisai his house was yoitza, but gufay lo yotza. So that's why there's a concept when you buy a guest, so you're mishtatef with their lighting, and then when you get the brachas, you sort of yoitza with them, because you could hear the brachas and you were mishtatef and you're getting everything too.
Do you have to pay anything to begin?
So either you could pay part money, or they could give it to you for free. You pick up the menorah and you're zeicha, chelik of the shama, you're zeicha part of the candle, you know.
And if the person's staying in a hotel for a number of days?
Oh, so that's very nice if you're staying by someone, but let's say you're alone. You're alone, so your wife is lighting for you at home and you're alone. So could you light yourself? So technically, we paskin, halacha l'maisa, we paskin. It's a big machlekes, and we paskin that you have the right to break off. Some say l'chatchila you should try to light before your wife lights. Because once she lights, then you get into the shaila if you're allowed to light or not. But if you light, let's say, you make up with her. You'll light at 5 o'clock, she'll light at 5:20. So you lit first, so that avoids the question. But you have in mind not to be yotze with your wife, and you light yourself, you can light with a bracha and light yourself. That's how we paskin, those that say not like that, that's how we paskin al chol. You're staying somewhere overnight, your wife's at home, you can light yourself. You break off from your wife, and you light yourself. Maybe if we have time, we'll get into the background for this. But you can light yourself, and then, why should I do it? Because otherwise I'm not going to get the bracha. I'm not going to get the bracha. Now, there's something called the birchas haroya. Birchas haroya means like this. That, the Chachamim were mesakin, this is very unique to Chanuka. That the Chachamim were mesakin, that a person that is not lighting, the person that's not lighting, when he sees the Ner Chanukah, he can make a bracha. Shas Nisim, what I'm saying. The first day he can make a Shechayanu and a Shas Nisim. And the second day he can make a Shas Nisim. He can't make a Lahadlik, he's not lighting, but he can make here. Mishaloi Hidlik, someone who didn't light. Ve'ena Osad Lahadlik Boy, so he's not going to light later that night. The Gam, now this is a big machlokes with Scheiner, but he paskins, even if and nobody's lighting for him at home, he doesn't have a wife lighting for him at home. He's traveling, he's single, nobody's lighting for him at home, or the whole family's traveling, so nobody's lighting at home. And he's not lighting because he's nowhere. And he's not going to light later that night. And you pass by and you see a menorah in the window, and it's lit. So the halacha is, K'sheroyin Chanukah mevarich Shas Nisim, you make a bracha Shas Nisim, like we're saying. And b'lai Rishon, you make a bracha Shechiyan. That's the halacha. So in order to, people that can't actually do the mitzvah themselves with the lighting, they can be mishtatev with the mitzvah just by seeing it and making the bracha. But this is only, it's machlokes b'shaina, but it's only if you're not lighting at home. If someone's lighting for you at home, so you already have the mitzvah, even though you missed the brachas, but you already have the mitzvah. So therefore you can't be mishtatev now by just seeing it and making the bracha. It doesn't work. So, but there is something called the birchas haraya. So let's take this a little further. So if someone's lighting for you at home, so you can't just make a bracha when you see the Ner Chanukah, but you could break off. I'll break off. I'm not going to be yoytze with my wife at home. I'm going to break off, and I'm going to light myself, and I'll make a bracha myself. That you could do if you're stationary, if you're settled somewhere for the night, so you can light there, break off from your wife, as we mentioned before, and you could make the bracha. And this way you get the riyas, so you see the neighbors, and you can make all the brachas, and very geshmak you can do yourself. That's how we're noyig today. Now, Mechaber says, Yeshayim, even though they're lighting for you at home, if you're in a place where there's no Yidden around, you're on a business trip and there's no Jews around, this guy's in Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota, there's nobody in his 100 square miles, says, there's nobody around, Ein Yisrael, no Yidden, Madlik bebrachas, the Mechaber says you can light with a bracha. You can light with a bracha. Hagar, why? Ki chayiv luris haneris, you have to see the neiris. Now you can't see someone else's candles because nobody around. So you want to see a nair, you got to light it. So we can light with a bracha. So the Mordechai asks a question he doesn't understand. Someone's lighting for him at home, so he's really yoytze. Just what he's missing the birchas hariyah. Real paskin, you can't make a bracha for seeing the nair. if someone lit for you at home. So how could he light a ner to be able to see it if someone lit for him at home? So the simple answer is, and that's how the Moshe goes, that here is different. Here, you're going to have in mind not to be yotze with your wife. You're going to break off, just like if you're staying in the city by someplace else. You could light yourself, so who cares? There's no yidden around. I'm going to light for myself. I'll break off from my wife and I'll light myself. So it seems that this question whether a person could do that, my Mordechai, and he brings over here, the Mishabur says he shouldn't do this. If a guy's staying by himself somewhere where there's no yidden around, he shouldn't light. Unless he says, like he said before, so if he says he doesn't want to be yotze with his wife, so he could break off and he could light himself, and if he could light himself, so he's lighting for his own mitzvah. But the Ramah sounds like the reason why he's lighting is because he has to see the ner, and he wants to have the brichus haroya of seeing the ner, and that's difficult. Once his wife lit for him at home, he doesn't have a mitzvah to see the ner. Okay, so this
I don't understand the difference between if it's in a place with no yidden around or whether there's yidden.
If there's if there are yidden around, so you can see someone else's ner.
So you should not break off it?
So it sounds like he's saying you should not break off. You'll yotze with your wife at home, and you can see the ner. You won't make a bracha, because you can't make a bracha, your wife lit for you at home, but at least you'll see the ner. You'll see the neighbors. Yeah. You know, the big tzaddikim, they would light the ner and sit and stare at it for a half hour to get all the... to see the neighbors. So you see the neighbors.
But I thought you could only do that if nobody's doing it for you. Okay.
You can't make a bracha unless no one's doing it for you.
No, but I thought if it was only if you're single that you can do this, like benefit from somebody else's. I thought
to make a bracha, to be able to make a bracha, only if nobody's lighting for you at home.
Right.
But if someone's lighting for you at home, if you see in there, you can't make a bracha.
Right.
Right. But so the Mishabur seems to go, it's not the greatest idea to break off from your wife. It's only if you have no choice. You have no choice. You can't see anybody else's ner, so you light. But halachah l'maisa, like I'm saying before, the place can say that one could break off if you're lighting yourself, regardless of whether there's yidden around, no yidden around. If you're by yourself for the night somewhere, you could break off. You have to have in mind you're not being yotze with your wife, and you break off, and you light yourself. And though it's a big machlokes, but that's how they do. So a person could light himself based on that.
If the person's staying in a hotel, but he can go to a shul and see the ner in the shul, is that enough?
So is that enough not to break off, you're saying? Yeah, it could be yotze brichus haroya from the shul. It's a good question. It could be yotze from the shul. It probably could. It probably is enough, but we hold it's better to light yourself. Problem is, hotel, you can't really light yourself.
My daughter's in a situation where her husband doesn't come home till pretty late, like it's around 11 o'clock or 11, maybe even later, right?
Right.
So does she light the Chanuka lights herself, or does she wait till her husband comes back?
Right, it's a good question. So in other words, what's the best thing to do? So over here in Chutz La'aretz, it's better to wait and let her husband light when he comes home.
Wait till he comes back.
Because it's part of the question, is the lighting for the inside or for the outside. Since we light for the inside, so it's better to wait. And then Eretz Yisrael will be a real shaila.
She would do it with a bracha?
She would do it with a bracha. Eretz Yisrael, because it's the right time. And if he comes home, he's very yotze, really.
So the lighting in shul cannot be more to nobody, even if somebody cannot.
So we'll talk about the shul lighting. We'll talk about it. So we'll just end this point here. So what's basically coming out is that there's an interesting concept that's coming out from here, that besides the lighting of the candles, there's a chayav liros haneris. A person has to see the candles. So if you're in a place where there's no yidden and you're not seeing the candles, even though your wife is lighting for you at home, not only are you missing out the brachas you can't make, you're missing out that you haven't seen the candles, and you have to see the candles. So therefore, that sort of requires you to light yourself, so you should be able to see the candles. That's what comes out. So there's an Indian to pursue an Isa, to be able to see the candles yourself, even though there's nobody else. Just for yourself, you're mechayev to light. Now the little question over here is, which I'm not going to get into at length, but just the technical shaila and halacha here is that here there's nobody else that's going to see the candle except for you. No other yid that's going to see the candle except for you. So therefore you should light. And we said before that if you're lighting late at night and everybody's sleeping, the only one who's going to see the candle is you. You shouldn't make a bracha, because nobody else is going to see the candle. And here we don't seem to be concerned. He should light it, he says. He should light himself because he has to see the candles. Nobody with him, it's just him himself. It sounds like just for him is enough of a reason to light. He doesn't have to wake up his wife. It's enough if he's there. He can light the candle for himself. But before we're saying that if he comes late at night and there's nobody else there except for him, oh, you can't light with a bracha because there's nobody else going to see the candle. So that's a shtickle question. Some say, well, here some non-Jews will see the candle, maybe that's enough. Others say before it's after the Zman, it's worse than here, it's in the right Zman. There are answers, but there is, there's an Indian that he should see the candles himself, and also that they should light candles that other people should see also for the Pasumei Nisa.
So
now,
it's the same situation.
Two questions who want,
sorry,
yeah, what?
It's the same situation whether it's let's say you're in an area where there's not too many, there's no Jews.
Right.
It's just going walking past. Is it the same mitzvah to light by
the window? The question is, do you light by the window? And that's the question. That's the question. Is there a Pasumei Nisa for the non-Jews, or the Pasumei Nisa is just for the Jews? This is a question that we have discussed.
Oh, I see. So it's
yeah. So. So there's two questions that came up here. One is a question: what happens? What happens if you're living at home? You're just going for supper somewhere, which is a common question. You're going for a Hanukkah party. And then the other question is lighting in the shul. So let's address both of them. I'm not going to be so popular now, so ask a local rabbi. But I'm just going to tell you what I think comes out from the place can say. So now the ikar halakha where a person's supposed to light is in his house. Now, a person is supposed to light by his house. Like we see, if a person is traveling and his wife lights at home, even if he's staying somewhere else, in the but that's not the ikar halakha. There is, Rav Schechter was here last week, he spoke at this length where a person is supposed to light. He also came out very strong. But the place can say this clearly, that the question is, in the old days, sometimes you had two, or yeshiva bracha sometimes has two places, a place where you sleep and a place where you eat. And the question is, which is your main living space? The eating room or the sleeping room? That's the question. And the ikar halakha is the eating room is the main living place. That's why in the house, if you have a choice to light in the bedroom or in the dining room, the best place is the dining room. That's where we eat. It's the main living space in the house. Is considered the eating space. That's where you light. But that's all if you're living in both spaces. But if I'm living in one house and I'm eating somewhere else, I'm a guest somewhere else, that's not called my living space. That's his living space. I don't live there. So there's no it's really not your place to light. That's like lighting in someone else's house. Like I live on here, and I'm lighting in my friend's house. I'm not yotze with that. I have to light in my own house. So it's really problematic. If someone's going to someone else's house, the proper thing to do is to really light at home and wait a half hour and then go. Because to go eat there and light over there, you're not really yotze mitzvah. What's the other thing you could do is go there and then come home later and light. You can still light. There are people outside. You can still do that. But you get into a shiloh if you're allowed to eat before Adlakas Neiros. If you're allowed to have a suda. The halacha is, like any mitzvah in the world, you're not supposed to be doing anything that's going to make you forget about lighting. So you're not supposed to eat, have a whole suda. You're not supposed to have a whole suda. You're not even supposed to work. Good, the guy's already working from the whole day, so he didn't leave yet. So he has a Scheiner, he has his wife at home, they're waiting, they have the candle set up. So there's a reminder. But you're going to eat by someone's house, who's going to remind you when you get home? You're not supposed to do that. So it's a real issue. It's a real issue that if you're staying there for the night, okay, so you park there for the night, so you have what to rely on. There are some places, let's say, if you stay there for the night, so that could be considered your living space for the night. Some say, no, you're still living at home, you're just visiting for the night, your living space at home. But there's what to discuss. But if you're not staying overnight, you're just going there for a meal, it's not the proper thing to light over there. The proper thing is to light it in your house, And that's your living space. That's where you're living. That's where you're supposed to light. There are some single people that have a more complicated childless. They should ask a shiloh, but the best way to do it for a person that has a home and is living at home and that's where he is, that's where he's supposed to light. So that's his living space. That's where he's supposed to light. He's not yoitz if he just lights somewhere else. Now, if you go away for Shabbos, if you buy someone's house for Shabbos, son-in-laws go to the in-laws' house. Fine, so that's where they're living for Shabbos, so they light over there. Then they want to stay Motzei Shabbos, so it could be, since there's already living there over Shabbos, so they could light their Motzei Shabbos also and stay for a couple hours and then go home. There's Shiloh. Chaim Kanievsky had this question. He lived in Bnei Brak, right? And his father-in-law, Rabbi Yasha, was in Yerushalayim, and he went there for a Shabbos. And he had a big shiloh with. He liked Motzei Shabbos. He's going home later to Bnei Brak, and he's there in Yerushalayim by his mom. So there was a whole shiloh there. If he likes when he gets home, but there in Eretz Yisrael, you have this problem that the Ikuzman is at the time. But in any case, he likes about it. But the main thing is the way people do today is they light, where they're staying. They stay for the party, Motzei Shabbos. It's fine because they're living there the whole Shabbos. But if you're not, if you're just going there for a meal, it's not proper. You should light at home, wait a half hour, then you could go. Even if you have to put it out, and go, it's fine. You already let it lit for the right time.
How does that work in terms of timing, making it in terms of time for mincha? I'm talking Erev Shabbos.
So Erev Shabbos is where it gets complicated because you want to go eat by someone's Shabbos, and you have to light. Erev Shabbos is really complicated. Because you can't stay by the neighbors. Maybe your wife could stay by the neighbors, but you light it before Shkia, and it stays lit until you want it to light a half hour after Tzeis. You want it to stay lit a half hour after Tzeis. These people are waiting. Where's my guests? As soon as starting, where's my guests? So you can't put out the candles anyways. You have to light in a safe place. Like the Shabbos candles, you light.
So you would have to see the nearest lit. You'd actually have to see them lit. So you're lighting before Shkia or at Shkia, I guess.
Light at Shkia, so usually someone's at home. Someone should.
But would you actually have to see them lit? You should do the lighting. You light them, you say bracha.
You light it. You make a bracha. You light it, but it's not.
And then
it has to stay lit till after the Shkia.
After, right.
So someone should be home. Is the best thing. But even not, at least if you light by a window, people outside see it. It's still lit. People see it. Best thing is to remain home, at least until time to go to the Suda. This way you see it a little bit and it stays lit. People can see it on the outside. Yeah. I mean, you have by Ner Shabbos you have the same problem. You're eating by someone. Where do you light your neighbors? It's a real problem. Where do you light your Ner Shabbos? You go to Hanukkah. The Ner Shabbos and Ner Hanukkah are very closely related. It's the same Gemara. So where do you light it? Now Ner Shabbos, it could be the Ikar lighting is for the Suda. Because you have to have neirs by the Suda, but nonetheless, I don't live there. I live at home. I'm started over there, but I live at home. So it's a real question where you light. If you're going to go home afterwards, you should have candles. You should light candles. That's at least one candle should remain lit till you get home. Light a candle, outside candle, something that stays lit for longer. When you come home, you still have a nail lit, so you can sit by the candle a little bit when you get home later at night. But the proper thing is to light at home. If you're staying at home, it's supposed to light. So that's but Ner Hanukkah for sure. It has nothing to do with the Suda. It has to do with the lighting on the Eretz Yisrael. You have to light by home. So that's the proper place to light. People that are traveling in a complicated shiloh, so there it gets a little more complex. If there's a way to light when you're not home where you are, that's another shiloh. I don't know if we have time to get into that, but that's it's late already. Just getting to the shul, because very interesting questions come up with the lighting of the shul. The main lighting is supposed to light at home, but nonetheless, the Mordechai brings down that there's a minhag to light in the Beis HaKnesses. The question is where it came from. This concept to light in the Beis HaKnesses. Why do we light in the shul? So some learn. Rishonim bring down the reasons, 3 reasons. One reason is just like you make kiddush in shul. You'll make kiddush at night. Why do you make kiddush at night? You're going to make kiddush at home. So you make it for the guests that don't have the guests that don't have Kiddush, so they hear it in shul. That's one reason. The question is that's relevant today. Maybe it is. A guy's traveling. He doesn't have a place. See the nearest. That's one reason. Other reasons are just for Ikka Pesumei Nisa. We want to make a Pesumei Nisa where there's B'Raivam, there's a lot of people together, and you make a Pesumei Nisa. But there's a lot of shilos that come up based on this. For example, a person comes to shul, and he's a chazan, and he lights the neros, he makes a bracha first night, he makes a shechianu, he makes a shas nisim, and he makes a lahadlik. He makes a lahadlik first, and he lights it. Then he goes home. Hey, wait a second, I already made the brachas. I'm lighting at home, can I light again? What do I do? So there's no question he's allowed to make a lahadlik, because he has a chiyuv to light by his home. The fact that he lit in the shul doesn't take away from his chiyuv to light at home. The question is, could he make a shechianu? It's a shiloh, but most places say, don't make a shechianu at home. I already made a shechianu. I made a shechianu in shul, now I'm going to make a shechianu at home now. So, shiloh, what do you do? So Moshe says, well, if you're not going to make a shechianu at home, how do you make a shas nisim at home? I already made a shas nisim. Is the bracha shas nisim going on my lighting in a candle, or is it going on the concept of Hanukkah? It's going on the concept of Hanukkah. I did it in the shul already. If it's going on, so that's a real shiloh. A guy who makes the bracha in shul, could he go back and now and make it at home?
Can his wife make it?
Oh, so the Rishvu says that if he has a wife at home, so he could make it for his wife. he could already make the brachas because there's other people at home that didn't hear it in shul, so he could do it for them. So that's an eitzah. He can make the brachas because he's right to his wife. Even though normally we don't do it like that, but it seems that over here they make them. You can make it for your wife at home. You have the shiloh the other way around. Let's say you make it at home first, and then you go to shul late Marav and you want to make it in shul. So there the Zera Emes says, the Yashuv doesn't agree, but the Zera Emes says that you could make it in shul because even the shechianu, because there's a bigger Pesumei Nisa in shul that you don't have at home. So that's a separate takana for the bigger Pesumei Nisa, so you can make another shechianu. If you lit at home, you can still light it in shul with the bracha. But you have this sort of this, I have only chiyuv to light the one there. I'm lighting it in shul, and I already made the brachas. Can I make the brachas again? So in shul, we allow him to make the brachas because it's a bigger Pesumei Nisa. What is this takana in the shul is very. The person will say, "Havu d'loi lo haiseful." We don't even know why they do it to begin with. But kacha is such a takana. The question is, in other gatherings, do you make a brachas lahadak? Do you do it? Many persons say, no, you only do it in shul. So you have another guy, a big party, could I make it on Hanukkah? So Shiloh comes up countless times a year. People have non-religious relatives that didn't light at home. To get them to light would be nice to them. They can light it there with a bracha. They weren't yoitz at home. They could possibly light there by the party. But to have someone that already did the bracha, already lit, to light in a party is a very difficult to be matter that. But at least.
And if you have a minion at the party, would that be like lighting at the shul?
It's not a kavudik minion. It's not a place. It's not a base of knesses. You don't usually light it. It's only in the base of knesses itself. These are questions that come up. You have shalos that come up. People make chasanas on Chanuka. People light by the chasana hall. People come and light. They light by the chasana hall. That's not where they live. That's not what they eat. People are coming from out of town, so they can't light at home. So could they light there in the Chanuka place? Should they light when they're going to go later at night? They have shvera shilos where a person's light. Where does a chassan light? He just left his house. He didn't move into his new home yet. He's in no man's land. So you have these questions. But Al Kaponim, this is a. There are three chuvas from Moshe, very interesting chuvas about this, where a person can light when he's in limbo. He bases it on this halacha that says that if a person is in a place where there's no yidden, he can light in order to see the neiros. So the fact that you have a chiyuv to see the neiros could require you to light to see the neiros. So he learns out from even if a person is not at home, you're really supposed to light at home. But for whatever reason, he can't light at home. So he went to a chasna. and you can't light anyplace else. So there's a svara that you can light where you are, based on this, because I have to see neiros, and there's no neiros here, so I can light to get my mitzvah sariyas on neiros. So there is such a concept. Others disagree. One should ask a shiloh when you're in a difficult situation. This gives a little what? To make a bracha l'hadlik, as it says in Mecharik, make a bracha l'hadlik. Based on that. Okay, Shataka Mizaycha to get some of the oives from the Neo Chanukah. I see. Used to sit there. Chayiv Lewis is Haneris. Is a chayiv to see the candles. You don't just light it and run away. You have to see the candles being lit. Sometimes we don't know what we're seeing. I went to a shir, somebody who's into the kavanas, and he said the big people that are into kavanas. There's a lot of kavanas when you see the candles. Besides for lighting the candles, but seeing the candles itself has its own unit of, I don't know what they are, don't ask me, but he was saying there's a lot what to get out of it.